The hum of the slave ship reverberated through the metallic walls, low and ceaseless like a predator's growl. Dim lights flickered in jagged intervals, casting long, wavering shadows over the cargo hold packed with the defeated and the discarded. Chains rattled softly. Cries had long since faded into a resigned quiet. Among them, tucked against a bulkhead wall, sat a small human girl, no older than 7, her knees drawn to her chest, eyes wide but dry. Her name was Mara, though she had not spoken it aloud in days. She was the only human in the hold. The Zarnithi slavers, known for their contemptuous cruelty, hadn't bothered separating her. A child, they assumed, posed no threat. What use was there in handling her any differently than the others? She sat motionless, silent. She didn't cry or beg. That disturbed some of the others more than anything else. Her fingers moved in the dust collected on the cold floor, sketching lines with eerie precision. Curves intersected with sharp slashes in a pattern far too symmetrical for idle fidgeting. Most thought it the coping mechanism of a broken mind. One being, a grizzled Yuvanti with more scars than skin, glanced once and looked away quickly. It wasn't a child's game. He knew war sigils when he saw them. He dared not speak. Outside the hold, through the grated barriers, the sound of the slavers echoed. Mocking laughter, boot steps, guttural jeers. Captain Hrilak, the Zarnithi in charge, stopped in front of the girl's enclosure. He grinned, lips pulling back to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. "What's this? A tiny human? Did someone misplace their pet?" The crew cackled, banging on the railings. Mara didn't react. Hrilak crouched. "No tears? No screams? You think that earns you mercy?" Still nothing. His grin faltered. "I said," he began, raising a clawed hand, but Mara looked up. Her eyes didn't hold fear. Not even defiance. Just certainty. She said, soft but steady, "My mother is coming." The room quieted. Hrilak blinked, confused at first, then amused again. "Is she now? And what would your dear mommy do?" His claws flexed. "We've killed soldiers. Torched colonies. There's no one coming for you, little ape." He rose, turning to walk away. "Brand her. Tomorrow she's sold on Varkesh. We'll get decent trade value. They like human children." The crew jeered again, emboldened by his dismissal. Then Mara spoke once more, voice clear despite the cold. "Her name is Celine Voss." The effect was instant. Hrilak froze mid-step. His back went rigid. Slowly, he turned around, laughter gone, replaced with silence that felt heavier than any chains. One of his officers dropped the tablet he was holding. Another took a step backward without realizing. A murmur rippled through the room. A name carried across species, cultures, and ranks. Celine Voss. The human commander. The revenant general. The butcher of Krellin V. The one whose orders had reduced fortified moons to lifeless stone. The one who had marched unshielded through the ruins of Zaltrak 9 and personally executed the last of the Sindari warlords with her bare hands. Hrilak's throat clicked. "You lie," he said, but it lacked conviction. His eyes locked on the girl. Still sitting, still calm. Another voice spoke, cracked and hoarse. The scarred Yuvanti. "The Voss doesn't have a child." "She did," Mara said. "She kept me safe. Until now." A long silence followed. One of the younger crew finally broke it, stammering. "We should verify. It could be a bluff." Hrilak rounded on him, shouting. "Then verify it! Cross-check every database. Every frequency log. If this is true, if she knows." He didn't finish. Mara didn't blink. Her drawing was gone now, erased with a sweep of her hand. The deck felt colder than before, the silence sharper. Even the nearby slaves, alien and weary, gave her space they didn't have to give. Outside the hold, sirens briefly flared. A systems glitch. Or interference. Or something worse. The guards tensed. Hrilak stared at the girl for a long time, and for the first time since they captured her, he didn't see a prisoner. He saw a countdown. The silence lingered long after the name was spoken. Across the command deck, every monitor flickered as if reacting to a presence not yet in the system. Captain Hrilock stood still, jaw clenched, staring at the live feed of the child. The name repeated in his head like a pulse. Celine Voss. He turned sharply to the comms officer. Pull the Central Dominion security logs. Search for any active or latent human fleet signatures connected to Celine Voss. Now. The officer's hands trembled as he typed. The database scan ran for seconds that stretched too long. Then it pinged. Red security alerts. No image. Just a file summary with a classification level normally restricted to High Council intelligence. A coded phrase, *engagement warning, subject Voss. Non-negotiable. Immediate disengagement advised, *. Next to it kill counts. Operations. 5 theaters of war. No trial. No hesitation. Entire species leaderships ended with her name in the command order. Human diplomat assassinated? She dismantled the Gowther Syndicate in 3 days. Civilian colony attacked? She removed every trace of the attacker's lineage from the system registry. No prisoners. The ship's second-in-command whispered. That can't be her child. She doesn't have family. She doesn't have anything but missions. A silence followed. The thought was both comforting and terrifying. If Celine Voss had no family, and this girl was claiming to be hers, what would a woman like that do for the one bond that did exist? Hrilock pulled the last recovered footage of Voss's campaigns. They weren't official records. They were bootlegged slaver intelligence clips, blurry, shaky, but damning. Her voice on a transmission loop before initiating the cleansing of the pirate clutch, *. You broke something of ours. I will return the favor. *. The entire asteroid belt was vaporized minutes later. He searched for recent sightings. Nothing definitive. But one ship had gone dark 2 sectors over, an entire armada. No distress signals. No debris found. The last transmission? A garbled audio string with an old Earth nursery rhyme embedded within. They began piecing together movement logs. Patterns emerged. Tiny things, power spikes, jamming waves, hidden beacon pulses in obscure bandwidths. Not definitive, but familiar. To those who had followed her campaign, it resembled her pre-assault cycle. She moved like a whisper. Hit like extinction. Hrilock's knuckles whitened on the edge of the console. She wouldn't come for one child, he said aloud. But even as he spoke it, doubt crept in. That's what terrified them about humans. Their rules weren't like the others. Across the galaxy, Celine Voss was not a name. It was a verdict. Whispers of her deeds weren't folklore, they were warnings. The Atari Alliance once tried to capture a Terran diplomat's niece. 3 of their moons were burned from orbit in retaliation. No declaration. No parley. Just 3 days of silence, then 3 impacts that cracked the crusts and melted the sky. The humans sent one message after, don't touch what's ours. A slaver crew out of Eltros once traded a human teen. 1 cycle later, their fortress became a crater. No survivors. Everyone in this business knew the pattern. And yet they forgot. They mocked. Until the name surfaced. A junior officer whispered, Should we jettison her? Leave her somewhere and erase the logs? Hrilock turned. And if she tracks it back to us anyway? If she finds out we touched her daughter? No one responded. The idea of running was appealing, but pointless. If Voss knew, she was already coming. If she didn't, the risk of alerting her was greater than anything they could calculate. They pinged a distress signal to neutral networks. The reply came immediately from a security contractor. Their reply was short, * not engaging. Subject Voss is a terminal asset. Good luck, *. Another crew attempted to trace the girl's claim. No public records. No confirmation of birth. But one covert log, buried in encrypted diplomatic archives, mentioned a classified Earth-based contingency unit. Unit leader, Commander Celine Voss. Operation status, suspended due to undisclosed. Personal crisis. That was 3 years ago. Everything clicked. She went dark for a child. Panic became practical. Systems were rerouted. Escape protocols initiated. The crew tried to behave calmly, but fear bled into their movements. The girl remained untouched. Not out of compassion, but fear of consequence. She sat there, wordless, as slavers tripped over themselves trying to undo what could no longer be avoided. A proximity alert chimed. A ship had entered the system. No registry. No name. Just a void signature and null drive trace that defied standard reading. It didn't broadcast. It didn't challenge. It watched. Relok stared at the screen. He couldn't see the ship. But he knew. She was already here. No comms. No demand. Just presence. The ship hung beyond sensor resolution, wrapped in something the scanners couldn't identify. Its silhouette shifted against the void, either entirely visible nor fully hidden. It emitted no heat, no signal, no standard propulsion trails. Still, it was there. Watching. On board the slaver's ship, systems began to malfunction in quiet, creeping ways. First, the auxiliary power grid faltered. Then internal comm links shorted with no cause. Lights dimmed. Environmental controls cycled erratically. Gravity fluctuated in brief pulses. One engineer collapsed mid-diagnostic, screaming about shapes in the dark that weren't there. The crew scrambled for stability, but nothing held. Weapons systems locked up. Surveillance feeds showed static or blurred shadows moving in impossible ways. Someone attempted a long-range ping to the nearest mercenary fleet. It failed before the message left the system. Each attempt returned the same corrupted code. Asterisk returned the girl. You have one chance. Asterisk. Captain Relok stood silent in the command chamber, gripping the edge of the console. His claws dug into the alloy. Every standard protocol was irrelevant now. Nothing they'd prepared for could account for what was coming. This wasn't a fleet engagement. This was surgical. Personal. The ship in the distance moved. Not by thrusters, but in a blink, shifting location without visual transition. One frame empty. The next, closer. No alarm. No warp trail. Just progress. Then came the beacon. A single red pulse lit up on the slaver's command interface. Old military encoding, long retired. One that hadn't been used since the Emberfront War. Every species with records knew what it meant. Asterisk Vengeance Protocol, Asset Retrieval. Class 1, Asterisk. No broadcast followed. The pulse simply repeated, slow and steady. Rhythmic. As if marking time. Inside the slave hold, the girl still sat still. Unshaken. Others began to murmur. Rumors spread faster than facts. Someone claimed to have seen her mother before, on the battlefield of Eridani Prime. Another swore Celine Voss had no ship, just traveled between wrecks left behind. The panic spread upward. One of the weapons officers tried rerouting control to local turrets. They activated for half a second before discharging in reverse, damaging internal walls. A crewman attempting to launch escape pods found the hatch doors fused. Emergency manual overrides failed. The control panel fried on touch. Every system turned unreliable. Every familiar safeguard now a liability. They understood the tactic. Psychological compression. Celine Voss never attacked immediately. She eroded the enemy's confidence until the fight was over before it began. Panic made mistakes. Mistakes made openings. Then came the end. Crew morale collapsed in stages. Some locked themselves in quarters, praying to gods that didn't answer. Others clustered near the prisoner hold, not to guard the girl, but to distance themselves from command decisions. The girl finally stood. Not a word. Just a glance at the nearest camera. It flickered, but not from malfunction. It focused on her face, as if drawn. Outside, the stealth vessel released a boarding pod. Small, unarmed, single occupant. It approached without evasion, straight through what should have been defensive fire. No alarms triggered. No one gave the order to hold. The slaver's ship's sensors registered it as a maintenance drone. Their own system betrayed them. The pod docked. Pressure locks disengaged. No resistance. Internal doors opened in sequence, one after another, without any mechanical input. Lights followed in a chain behind the boarding route. Motion detectors lit up one red signature. Human-sized. Moving directly toward the central deck. The crew scrambled for weapons, most now non-responsive. A few held blades. Others reached for personal sidearms that suddenly discharged without command. Holsters jammed. Ammunition corrupted. Any system relying on smart interface was compromised. The path to the girl remained untouched. Mara didn't move. She didn't call out. She waited not in hope, but in certainty. Every second confirmed what she already knew. Celine Vos had arrived. Hrilok watched the internal sensors track the figure. Smooth. Unhurried. Purposeful. The cameras failed to focus on her face, but every step told them what they feared. There were no threats made. No ultimatums. She didn't need them. When she reached the chamber just outside the hold, the lights died. No noise followed. No gunfire. No screams. Only silence. And the steady sound of footsteps that never quickened, never paused. The door opened with a low hiss. No alarm triggered. No resistance mounted. The crew stood frozen, weapons gripped in shaking hands, breaths caught in their throats. She walked in without hesitation, black armor dull under the emergency lights, face visible now, unmistakable. Celine Vos. No entourage. No squad. No speech. Her presence was enough. Every slaver who had ever heard her name knew this was the end of something, even if they didn't know exactly what yet. Captain Hrilok raised his weapon with forced confidence. His voice cracked. "You can't kill us all." She didn't reply. She simply moved. The first shot came from her sidearm, silent, clean, a plasma round that vaporized the weapon arm of the nearest officer. He collapsed without a sound, conscious long enough to see her step past him like he didn't exist. The rest panicked. The room erupted. Shots went wide. Screams overlapped. But Celine didn't dodge. She advanced, each movement exact. She struck one with the flat of her hand. His skull cracked on impact. Another charge, blade drawn, and she sidestepped, letting momentum do the work. He collided with the wall, neck twisted on contact. No theatrics. No wasted effort. Each takedown was swift, practiced. She knew these men, even if they'd never met. Knew how they fought. Knew how they died. Hrilok fired, wild and desperate. She spun, caught the shot with her gauntlet, redirected it back into the console. The system overloaded, lights burst, smoke filled the upper vents. He shouted again. "We didn't know! We didn't know who she was!" She stopped inches from him. "You didn't ask." He dropped the weapon. Fell to his knees. "It was a mistake. A child, she's nothing to us. Just a transaction." Celine tilted her head, eyes unreadable. "Then you should have treated her like one of your own." She raised her hand. He begged. "Please, I'll release her. I'll wipe the sail. I swear." Her expression didn't change. The strike landed fast, a single blow that collapsed his chest inward. He gasped once. Then stopped. Behind her, the chaos settled. The remaining crew had either fled into dark corridors or stood trembling, unarmed. None dared lift a hand. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of failing systems. Celine turned away from the bodies. She approached the slave hold where Mara sat untouched. The door opened for her without resistance. The girl looked up, eyes calm. No reunion dramatics. Just understanding. Celine knelt and lifted her. Mara wrapped her arms around her neck, wordless. The bond needed no declaration. They'd both survived too much for that. As she stood, she scanned the other prisoners. Beaten, starved, shackled. Species from across 3 sectors. None met her eyes directly, though all watched. She paused. The silence stretched. Then, her voice broke the stillness, low and final. "You're free. No orders given. No conditions set." She activated the restraints override and walked away. The shackles dropped. Some wept. Others stood in stunned disbelief. The slaver vessel's system crackled. A signal deployed automatically from her ship: coordinates, evac path, supply drone dispatch. Nothing left to interpretation. Celine didn't look back. By the time the slaver crew crawled out of hiding, there was nothing left to defend. The command structure was broken. Their status as traffickers erased. Their registry, scrubbed by the same override they'd used to erase others. A perfect reversal. In a single incursion, they hadn't just lost control. They'd been dismantled. Not by force of numbers or strategic advantage, but by one woman. For one child. The broadcast reached every major channel within the black market network. Footage captured from internal slaver cams, corrupted but intact enough to reveal the essentials: Celine Vos walking through smoke-filled corridors, leaving behind bodies and open cages. No narration, no demands. Just proof. The signal looped once, then self-erased, leaving a blank screen and a warning signature embedded into every ship's long-range ping system: * do not engage. Human asset retrieval confirmed. *. Across pirate enclaves and unregulated trade hubs, the message was received in silence. Traders wiped humans off their manifests. Brokers deleted transactions involving Earthborn cargo. Slaver routes near Terran-controlled space rerouted entire sectors away. Reputation was no longer protection. Not when a child's whisper could summon eradication. Celine didn't send follow-ups. She didn't issue terms. What she did was leave them with the knowledge that there had been no negotiation, no warning beyond the girl's name. That was enough. In the days that followed, the slaver ship, now gutted of command and purpose, drifted toward the nearest neutral station. Most of the prisoners had disembarked via the emergency pods Vos unlocked. The rest were recovered by humanitarian drones dispatched minutes after her departure. They found the place quiet. No resistance. No defiance. Just vacant eyes and doors left open. There was no body left for Relock. What remained of him had been uploaded as a data string, flattened and compressed into the ship's archive as a warning record. The crew that survived didn't speak of her. Most left the sector. Some didn't survive the guilt. Others were found later, empty-eyed, marked by the weight of witnessing something permanent. Mara returned to Earth under encrypted convoy. No planetary ceremony. No political exposure. Her name was never leaked. But those who processed her arrival noticed one detail that stood out: her clearance level. Higher than any diplomat's child. Her documents carried a seal used only by Terran shadow operatives, and even they had stopped using it after the Emberfront campaign. She didn't ask about the crew. She didn't speak much at all in those first weeks. But every night she watched the stars from her new room in the orbital recovery habitat, memorizing their patterns like someone reading a map. One technician caught her drawing sigils again. The same ones she had made in the dust aboard the slaver ship. He asked her once what they meant. She replied calmly, "They're lessons. She taught me what to remember." Celine Vos disappeared again. No confirmed sightings. No signal trails. Not even a rumor. She didn't stay to receive gratitude. She never did. Her purpose wasn't recognition, it was finality. The mission ended the moment Mara was safe. Everything else was background. Galactic Records quietly updated her profile. Not publicly, but deep in military logs. One line added to her designation: *family identified. Recovery complete. Engagement protocol, variable. Only a few understood what it meant. All of them adjusted their policies accordingly. In the outer reaches, whispers changed shape. No longer was Celine Vos just a figure of wartime precision. She became a myth reshaped: protector, executioner, mother. No longer feared for destruction alone, but for what she preserved. Human diplomats didn't acknowledge the incident. But at every trade negotiation thereafter, the respect for Terran space was absolute. Even known aggressors paused before issuing threats. Not out of caution, but survival instinct. It was no longer about Earth's armies, or its alliances. It was about what one human was willing to do for one small child. And if one could do that, what would happen if more followed? Mara began training. Not in weapons or combat, yet, but in discipline. She read logs from campaigns she wasn't supposed to access, parsed battle data with precision far beyond her years. Her instructors filed irregular reports, exceptional pattern retention, high threat scenario projection accuracy, zero emotional disruption under pressure. She never mentioned her mother. But she mirrored her in ways no file could predict. By the time she turned 10, she had chosen her path. Not vengeance. Not war. Preparation. She understood what her survival meant. Not just to her, but to the galaxy. Her mother had answered a call few could hear. Mara would ensure that the next call would never need to be made. Some species built empires. Some tore them down. But humanity, she learned, did something different. When one of their own was taken, they came back, not to negotiate, but to remind the stars why they were feared. Not because of numbers. Not because of strength. Because they didn't stop. Ever.